The business had been running for about a year, essentially, or just under a year at that point. And we'd been getting such good feedback from people in terms of the products, the idea behind it, the whole story. And people kept saying, you should do a crowdfunding campaign. And I knew a bit about it, but hadn't really thought about it until that point.
Welcome to MasterClass Talks, brought to you by MasterClass Crowdfunding.com. I am your host, David Johnson, and it is my pleasure today to introduce you to our wonderful guest, Sarah Jordan. Sarah is a recognized industry leader with over 20 years digital and business experience across not-for-profit, commercial, and publishing sectors. She now runs her own strategic consultancy, following several high-profile client-side roles, including with Oxfam and the MS Society. She is passionate about the application of technology for good, believing in its transformative power to make a difference to people and organisations on a day-to-day basis. Sarah also acts as strategic advisor to a number of startups, early stage businesses and social enterprises, as well as being on the board at a fintech company. Sarah remains active in the sector, regularly speaking at UK and international events and judging numerous industry awards. However, more interesting to us at MasterClassCrowdfunding.com, in 2016, Sarah co-founded You Underwear, beautifully designed, ethically manufactured and eco-friendly underwear, making the world a better place, one pair of pants at a time. In 2017, over £20,000 was raised via a crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter, bringing in the funds to help the business expand. So Sarah, thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you.
Welcome
Thank you
to
very much.
MasterClass Talks. Have you come far today? Where have you travelled from?
Just from Oxford, so not too far, about half an hour.
Okay, by bus or by car, train?
By car, yeah, drove here this morning.
Excellent, okay. So we first met in December at the launch of MasterClassCrowdfunding.com, and you have had a successful crowdfunding campaign, which we'll go on to talk about. Looking forward to speaking to you about that. But before we get into that, give me a little bit about your background. So where has Sarah Jordan come from?
Okay, so I was born, grew up in Oxford, so I'm local. Spent most of my childhood here and also a couple of years in the US with my family working out there.
Okay. And what part of the US was that?
California, so just south of San Francisco actually. My dad was teaching at Stanford, so we were lucky enough to grow up there, which inspired my love of travel, which has kind of stuck with me since then.
Okay, very good, very good. Business background, achievements then? What's your main working life been?
So it's been very much IT based actually, computing. So I first did my degree in geography and computing. I actually did a lot of meteorology. I wanted to be a weather girl at the time. Right. But took that on the IT side because it was early 90s, just when the internet was really starting to develop. So I was looking at web design, web development at the time, and how you could sort of use that specifically in education actually. So came back to a master's in Oxford, looking at educational technology. And it's kind of continued from then, essentially. Okay.
So you clearly have a passion for charities, for humanitarian projects, social causes. Yep. So how did that come about? What was the motivation that took you into that field?
Well, as I said, the kind of use of technology for positive impact, essentially, has been something I've been interested in since day one, at the start of my career. But it was particularly my job at Oxfam. I was there at Oxfam, which is also based in Oxford, for 5 years, leading all of their digital work. So on the fundraising side, the kind of communications, marketing, that side of it, e-commerce with their shop, but also in the programs, so how you could use technology in the field to improve the work that they did, the humanitarian work, the development work out there. And that really led to the love of that and the charity side, as you said. Okay.
So. And you went on a trip then to Uganda.
I did.
Had that been your first trip to Africa, or?
No, so I'd been a few times with Oxfam. This was actually different. It was part of a fundraising and volunteering program for a few weeks for the Uganda International Marathon. So we were working in local communities, running out there and sort of supporting people. And we went to a few community projects where we saw women who were making sanitary towels and nappies and didn't have any underwear to put them in, which is something that we just take for granted, don't really think about, a sort of basic necessity every day. And they didn't have them, and the knock-on impact in terms of both health and hygiene and safety, but also access to education. So we wanted to do something about that, and that's where You was founded from.
Okay, very good. There's an obvious question regarding the marathon running. Did you run the marathon yourself?
I did.
You did?
I did,
Very
yes.
good.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a fan of running, exercise, all sorts of things. There's a bit of a story behind it because I actually had a broken ankle at the time, which I didn't realise. So I ran it with that, which caused a few problems.
You ran a whole marathon?
I did.
With a
stress fracture that turned into a broken ankle. And I spent the year after that on crutches.
Okay.
So it's been quite a journey.
Was it painful when
it was
you were doing
really
running?
painful, yes. I didn't realise quite how injured I was, essentially, and quite how badly damaged it was. So kept going with a lot of local support. It wasn't my fastest, but it was very much about being part of the community. The run was kind of secondary, and kids high-fiving you all the way around. So it was an amazing experience. It did hurt like anything.
Yeah. But I suppose the satisfaction of having completed that, given the context of the run and the local people supporting you, it must have been very satisfying for you as an individual to put yourself through that.
Yes, definitely. I mean, the support out there and everything sort of subsequently, and keeping in touch with the people that you met out there. And I know I've got the resilience now, so
well,
won't be doing it again. But
there's not many people in the world could run a marathon with a stress fracture. That's
not to be recommended,
sure.
I have to say.
Yeah.
But
okay.
it was an amazing trip, definitely.
Yeah. So the idea of behind you, the underwear, grew out of that trip to Uganda, and you clearly saw the need there. So can you remember where you were or the situation when you hit on the idea, and was there a light bulb moment that went, we should do this?
There wasn't really a light bulb moment. It was more a sort of series of different events, really. So as I said, we saw women and children who didn't have access to underwear and what an impact that had, because they weren't able to go to school. They were missing sort of 10, 12 weeks of education a year, which has a huge knock-on impact in terms of economic side and everything. And so came back kind of thinking about it, essentially, saying how could we do something about it? And then learned a bit more about the organic cotton side of things as well, because conventional cotton is one of the world's most polluting crops, and there's a lot of problems on that side. So it's kind of putting all the different pieces together, sat down with my business partner, co-founder Lily, and just sort of it naturally sort of evolved from that, well, there's an underwear link, there's organic cotton, how can we do something, put those together, and we had you.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, so the project evolved.
Yep.
And then you're looking, how do we raise some funds? And of course, there's different routes to that. So how did you arrive at crowdfunding as a method of gaining the funds? And why did you then choose Kickstarter as the platform?
Yeah. So the business had been running for about a year, essentially, or just under a year at that point. And we'd been getting such good feedback from people in terms of the products, the idea behind it, the whole story. And people kept saying, you should do a crowdfunding campaign. And I knew a bit about it, but hadn't really thought about it until that point. And again, it was just sort of serendipity as much as anything, and kind of saying, well, yes, let's go for it. We'd been on an accelerator program over the summer as well.
Yep.
And the timing just seemed to be right before Christmas in terms of a good time for people to support and give money financially. So we did that, we decided to go for it. And the Kickstarter platform was one that, because it's reward-based crowdfunding, it's got a big audience already, and it seemed to work for what we were looking at the time.
Yeah, so it wasn't really proof of concept as such. You knew the concept would work. It was more perhaps accessing a tribe and raising some funds to give you some capital to work with.
Yeah, it was kind of all of those different elements. So definitely accessing the tribe. Kickstarter's obviously got a big platform, a big audience. Bringing our communities onto that as well. So the existing sort of group that we had supporting us that had either been in Uganda or that we'd worked with previously, and using those communities. And also, as you say, to sort of raise awareness as much as anything. So definitely for the financial side, but also to support the initial feedback that we'd gotten, to sort of validate it and say, actually, do people more broadly than just friends and family think this is a good idea?
Yeah. Okay, so different people do crowdfunding sometimes for different reasons.
Yeah.
As we interview project creators that have been successful, we talk to those who haven't been successful, we talk to platforms as well. There can be a perception sometimes out there that crowdfunding is almost like free money.
Yeah.
That you just put your information onto a platform, you sit back and you watch the money roll in.
Yeah.
So in your journey, I'm curious, was it more difficult than you thought, or what were the main challenges that you faced that perhaps you didn't predict when you started the journey? Yeah,
so it's definitely not free or easy money. It's a huge amount of work. I mean, we did know that in advance. Everybody kept saying it. I'd actually done some crowdfunding campaigns with some of the work that I was doing at Oxfam, but it's very different doing it yourself for your own business. The biggest thing I would say is preparation. Then just lining everything up and making sure you've got everything in place in terms of, obviously you need to know what rewards you're offering, you need the content, you need the video, you need all the inspiring sort of storytelling elements, but not just to get you to launch, but to get you for the 30 days or whatever, however the campaign, however long that's running for, making sure you've got that and you can keep the momentum going, because it's definitely, there's a cycle in terms of activity.
Momentum is a huge word in crowdfunding, getting that momentum in the pre-launch and during the campaign.
Yeah.
So why do you think that your project, You Underwear, why was it successful?
Some of it's definitely luck, if I'm honest. Pulling everything together at the right time. We did have quite a lot of our crowd, essentially, the community support before we launched. We'd warned people and sort of said, you said you were going to support us, well, now.
Here's your chance.
Here's your opportunity. Everybody that said it's a good idea. Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
As you said, the momentum. So there's a big build at the start and keeping that going. So having kind of strategic points all the way through when it dips. My co-founder Lily actually went out to India, which is where we're manufacturing, towards the end of the campaign, and we were able to pull some of that content and story in, keeping people updated, showing the progress, thanking them, getting them to share it. And just really going beyond not just the Kickstarter audience, not just our communities, but sort of getting it out and as much sort of media and PR as possible. Okay,
and the funds you raised, what did you use it for within the business? Just a rough breakdown.
Yeah, so most of it's going for the products itself. We used it to launch our first range of underwear. So the first of those products arrived just before Christmas, just in time for Christmas.
Very good.
Next lot, any day now. They're on the way as we speak, so towards the end of January. So that was the kind of core part, essentially, so we could get our products out there. Marketing as well, in terms of for the campaign itself, but for the business more broadly, so that we could raise awareness, do a lot of PR, marketing activity, advertising around it, so that we can have the momentum to the campaign through it and going beyond as well, because we don't want it to just drop now. So we're doing quite a lot of work to do that, build off website so that we can start to sell directly through that as well.
So that money was invaluable to get you to the next level?
Yeah, definitely. So we had bootstrapped the business, self-funded up until that point.
Right, okay.
And that just took us to the next step in terms of getting, as I said, the first products out there and then really launching it as a business.
Okay. We've discovered in the industry that the statistics at the minute are 2 out of every 3 campaigns do not reach their target, aren't successful, which means there's a lot of people out there put some time and effort in and that doesn't succeed. So we're quite passionate within MasterClassCrowdfunding.com about educating people and giving them an opportunity to learn and access the information. So would something like that have benefited you a year ago when you started the campaign?
Definitely.
If you had more information?
Definitely. I mean, as you said at the start, I met you towards the end of the campaign. I was like, some of this stuff would have been invaluable, definitely.
Yeah,
I think people do think it's an easy solution. They think the crowd is there, they think the money is there, and that's definitely not the case. You do need to work really hard in the run up to it. The launch day is your big focus, and then actually for the full campaign. So I think the more awareness and knowledge you can build around that to help make those campaigns more successful, because it is a very low rate in terms of the ones that do successfully complete their crowdfunding. So I think obviously that's going to help if you can share experience, share knowledge, share what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah. It must have been satisfying when you went over that target.
Yes.
Was there champagne bottles corking, or
there
just
weren't? No,
a bit of
not yet.
dancing
We still
around the
haven't.
office or anything? No?
There was definitely dancing around the office.
Okay.
We haven't done the champagne cork bit yet.
Okay.
But yeah, the countdown, it closed at 8 o'clock on a Monday evening, and I was just sitting there kind of refresh.
And at what stage did it go over the target?
Right just before, the same evening, but yeah, just a couple of hours beforehand. So
wow,
we were really cutting it fine. We definitely were cutting it fine. Yeah, sense of relief, sense of satisfaction, because to make it, you never know whether you're going to succeed or not. And delighted that we have, obviously, because it allows us to kind of validate the business idea and actually start to do that and start to have the impact in terms of giving back as well.
Yeah, I think the giving back aspect is very important to a lot of crowdfunding campaigns where people are happy to support and pledge and back projects that are a product, but where there's something given back, a social cause aspect to it. I think that's always very powerful when you bring the power of the crowd to an idea and a concept that's actually making a real difference in other people's lives.
Yeah, because I think a lot of crowdfunding campaigns, and particularly on Kickstarter, are very sort of tech-based, innovative, new products. We weren't that. So there was that initial sort of challenge in raising the awareness and the kind of interest around it, but that social element allowed us to do that, definitely. And actually we checked in with the backers and people that were supporting us as we went and sort of said, what motivated you? And there was very much that they're interested in the product in terms of the underwear, but actually the story behind it and the impact that we were going to have and they could have through that was definitely the big driver.
Okay. One of the spin-offs of a crowdfunding campaign is that you've now built a tribe.
Yes.
How many backers did you have on the project?
212.
Okay, so there's 200 odd people now that know who you are, believe in you, trust you to deliver the project. That means you've got an audience going forward. Have you thought about another product or another campaign with the same product? Has that thought process entered in yourself and your co-founder?
Yeah, definitely. So we're still quite early days in terms of we're just fulfilling the orders at the moment. So we are providing the underwear to those 212 people, but very much how we expand beyond that. So that money has allowed us to think about the kind of next steps essentially. So we want to do more than just produce, manufacture underwear. We want to go into broader sort of clothing lines and look at the impact we can have by expanding our range and doing another crowdfunding campaign either end of this year or early next, depending on where we are with the business. But it's definitely something that we're looking at and working with those backers essentially to kind of get a bit more feedback and involvement from them. How can we take this forwards? How can we best continue to grow on, build on that success essentially?
Yeah. One of the questions we often have with people that we consult with is deciding which model to go for.
Yeah.
There's obviously the reward model, and then there's straight donation charity model, and then there's the equity lending side of the business. So you obviously chose reward-based.
Reward-based.
It's worked very well for you. Did you consciously consider equity at the time, or did you just kind of go the reward journey? And what would your view be in potentially an equity project in the future?
Yeah, I think at the time the reward base was right for us, partly because we had the product and partly because of the social impact. We wanted to do something more than just the donation model, essentially. And it was perfect in that we could get our underwear out there, get the products known, and it sort of expand the awareness in that way as well. Equity wasn't right for us at the time, but that would be definitely what we would consider in future, because I think as the business is a little bit more mature and evolved and we've sort of learnt from the first campaign and the year beyond that, then we'd definitely be looking at sort of getting more investors involved and through the equity side.
Okay, so if you could go back to the start of the campaign, and you could talk to Sarah Jordan, and give her a bit of advice, what would you advise Sarah Jordan day one of the campaign?
I would say build on the momentum. So I think we were really focused on the launch. So essentially clicking the button that says the campaign is live, because that's your focus in the few weeks, the build up beforehand. You're creating all the content, you're doing the video, you're sort of selling it, putting it together as a package. And then you click go and you're like, right. And you see the first few donations come in and people backing it. But actually it's not the first 24, 48 hours, it's the sort of day 3, the first week, when it does naturally drop off, having things lined up for then as well.
To keep that momentum going, to keep
definitely.
it in the public eye, and do you mean social media posts, events?
Social media posts, events, sharing things, getting the first few supporters to share it with their friends as well, so it's not just coming from you, but it's the broader community, the crowd that is sort of getting it out there. I would also say get some sleep while you can. It was a hell of a few weeks, and so it's kind of maintaining the momentum through the campaign and how you can use everybody that has said they've got that interest and backing for you to actually put the money where their mouth is, essentially. Yeah.
I think another very important aspect of crowdfunding is the passion and dedication you have to have. And to be fair, that oozes out of you, even just an interview here, to run a marathon with a hairline fracture and even you're talking about lack of sleep. So you've really bought into it. You've really 100% committed to the campaign. You've believed in it. You've put your time and effort in, and often that's the magic for entrepreneurs and for project creators and crowdfunding. And I think you've brought that clearly in abundance to the project. which is impressive.
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, that's definitely something that motivates me. That's why we set it up as a business. That's the whole sort of steer and drive behind my career today, I suppose. I think crowdfunding is almost like a little microcosm of entrepreneurship in general. You've got to be passionate, you've got to be motivated, you've got to be hardworking, put the hours in. It's a hell of a slog. And really to be able to do that, you've got to care about what you're doing. And for us and for me, definitely it's the impact. So, and seeing the difference that you can make and seeing the underwear going out there and how you're changing people's lives, then it makes all the late nights, early mornings, through the nights worth it.
Brilliant. Sarah, absolutely fantastic. Really
Thank
delighted
you
you come and spend time with us.
Well, thank
I
you.
really
Thank you for
enjoyed that
inviting me.
and look forward to working with you in the future.
Definitely. Thank you.